the only one that's going to be showing up today, so I am dedicated to your questions.
Okay. Well, that's pretty awesome. Thank you.
No, not a problem at all.
So maybe we should start, excuse me, with styling the headline colors, the page title colors per subsite.
That's actually going to be the hard of the tasks that you've asked how to do. That's going to be the hardest one, so I think it's good that we get that one out of the way first.
Okay.
Fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay. If somebody join?
Yeah, sorry, this is Linda Morrell.
I knew you were there. I saw your name.
I'm sorry I'm late. Hello.
That's okay.
Okay.
Okay. So the first question was, if you had, for instance, you wanted to, under your education site, you want as we wait for it to load as I click, just so I understand what the question is.
Yes.
And I'm vamping for time while I wait for the page to load clearly. You want this title to be a different color for everything under the education section, right?
That's right.
Okay. What that's going to require for us to do is to somehow give you a hook in with a class on the page that will allow you to tell the CSS. Before I get any further, what's your expertise level with CSS?
Probably moderate.
Moderate. Okay, moderate is all you'll really be able to need to get this
right.
done. So.
But I think, you know, my SharePoint CSS experience is maybe less than that because I don't have a grasp on what CSS is happening that I can't see, because I know there are lots of CSS files that I can't see, and that, you know, there's a lot feeding into the pages.
Well, actually, you're in luck because everything that in the V4, all the CSS files you have access to.
Okay.
Even the ones coming from SharePoint. We've set it up to where you would actually have access to that. Like if you look in the style library, which is what I'm pulling up here, in the CSS folder, there's a folder called SharePoint. What we've done is we've for each individual site, we've moved the files that SharePoint, the CSS files that SharePoint is calling in on the authoring side, we've moved them into this folder. So you actually can go in there and touch them if you want. I highly recommend you don't do it unless you absolutely know what you're doing.
Oh, okay, I see. So those weren't there before.
Oh, they should have been there. They've probably just been overlooked or something.
No, I think they were hidden. I'm pretty sure I'd tried to go in there. The only one that I've seen is agency.
Well, the only one that you actually need access to control the look and feel of your site is agency CSS anyway. So it's the very last style sheet called. It should give you the ability to override any style on your site.
Okay.
So
as long as I know what to look for, yeah.
Right. What browser do you use typically?
Well, I've been using Internet Explorer because it, you know, easily connects to my login, but feel free to suggest something else because it's kind of annoying. I don't know if another browser would be better to work with for, you know, having to scroll up and find edit menus and things like that.
Well, it's not so much for like when it comes to the different browsers for actually working with SharePoint, doing the authoring itself. You know, some of them have IE is probably the best one to use for that. There's some strengths and weaknesses that they all have. There's IE is typically the strongest though.
Okay.
So for that, it's pretty good. But like when you're working with CSS and trying to figure out how styles work, if you can install it, I highly recommend Chrome. Because if you look at the page here, I'm using Chrome as a browser right now, and on any element on the page, I can click on it, I can right-click on it, and there's this option to inspect element. And when I do that, it'll open up this window, which the first time you use it will be docked down here at the bottom like this. But
I'm actually not. It's docked where? I'm sorry.
Typically right here at the bottom, you'll see, let me close it again and I'll start from scratch so you can see it. Right down here where I'm indicating, is my mouse moving at the moment? Can you see it?
No, there's just an arrow right below. Okay. Okay, now I see.
Right down in this area, watch there. If I right-click on Education, choose Inspect Element, I'll get a window, and you'll see that's that Level 2 header that's been highlighted. And this must... There we go. They're showing up. It'll tell you what... I think we're getting a bit of a delay because of the ReadyTalk plugin on top of it. But you get a list of what styles are being acted on, what styles are being applied to that header, and where they're coming from. Now, there's two basic style sheets that we use in the V4 pages. There's the agency base CSS, that's somewhere where you can't get your hands on it, because that's the style we use to apply to all the V4 sites, and it's a common look and feel, and we keep that under our control, so we can, if we need to push out a quick change or something like that. But we give you the ability to override every style possible that we've created with that, with a local style sheet agency CSS.
Okay.
And let me actually open up agency CSS here so you can take a look at what we're talking about. I'm going to edit in advanced mode. And you'll see right here, this add import at the very top of the agency CSS, that's where we're calling in that agency base.css file. If I delete that, your look and feel goes completely away. But it also gives you the flexibility, if you didn't like the way we've structured your HTML or styled your HTML, you could declare your own base style sheet and override it if you want. Now, you're going to deviate greatly from the V4 look and feel. If you do, I wouldn't do that.
Right, right.
But where everything also, all your styles are coming in after the fact, anything that's in that agency base, any style you add down here in this area is going to be the last style, so it will typically override what we've declared in the agency base. And that gives you tremendous flexibility in creating styles that are slightly different from the main agency style, that gives that header bar, how it looks, and says this is going to be centered and so wide, and that this is going to have this certain background. Everything that applies the e-governance board's V4 look and feel to the page is in. You have the ability to mess with that to some degree. Did that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I've made a few minor changes.
Good. And you'll notice, like I said, if you ever want to see what is acting on a style, you could right-click on it and inspect it, and you can see exactly where it's getting that color from.
Yeah, I can see it's H2.
Right, and we have a generic color of black, hex 000, applied to all H2s. Now, if you want to override that, the way that SharePoint is structured, you would have to have some sort of CSS class in your HTML that says, hey, all these pages belong to the education subsite. And that way I could write a style somewhere in here that would be something along the lines of, let me find a good place to put it. See if I've got any other H2 rules. Okay, there's my main content, H2. I could write a rule that says I want them all to be red, for instance. But the hard part now in SharePoint is getting that class on the page. And that's going to require that you open up the page layouts and make copies of them. Basically, all the page layouts in this section are going to have their own versions of the page layout that you use, to where we can go in and add a class to where you would have that hook to where you can go in and style that header to be a specific color. Is that making sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
And the way we would do that is here in SharePoint Designer, there's this folder. When you've logged in, if you'll click the pin for all files. That'll open up everything that's in your SharePoint site collection. If you expand the catalogs.
I think your screen is not refreshing. Let's see. Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, I'm not getting anything either.
Is that under the File tab in SharePoint Designer?
When you load SharePoint Designer, there's a list of in your left nav. It reads 10-year plan, list and library, workflows, blah blah blah, all the way down to all files. If you'll click and pin all files open, it'll show you a tree directory of all your files in SharePoint. So this isn't updating at all. We have some weird iffy Wi-Fi here. If you guys will give me about 5 minutes, I'll be right back, okay?
Thank you. I can save the change I made. Basically what I've come down in here and I found a nice place in the code where I'm keeping track of my H2s. And I've written a piece of text that says everything that's inside the class of education, the main content H2s, I want to be color red. I know you're going to want a different color, but just for test purposes right now, let's go with red because that will clearly show up.
Okay.
We have, let me close the console part here. In the style sheets, I'll inspect my element again. Notice it highlights it here again. You can see where it highlights the code in the inspector, and I'm told what styles are acted on it. If you'll look right here, there's a div we have that wraps everything on the page. And those divs are in the page layout. And this basically gives us hooks into the CSS where we could add styles specifically for these types of pages. So what we want to do is be able to add a class to this div that gives it a class of education, and that way we would be able to style all the different education headers, whatever color we like. But to do that, we're going to have to edit some page layouts. We're going to have to create some custom page layouts just for this section. And this is using the 3-column page layout. So I'm going to create a custom 3-column page layout just for this section of page here. And I was telling you where to find that before, like when you log into SharePoint Designer into your site, if you'll you go to all files, pin it down, you'll see all your files listed here.
Okay.
If you expand catalogs, master pages, all your page layouts are in master pages as well, and you will see listed here all the different page layouts we have. And it actually looks like somebody's been editing a couple of these, but that's okay. If you don't know which particular page layout you're using at any given time, if you edit the page, I built these so I know what they all are off the top of my head. And honestly, you probably should create a whole set just for each subsite that you want to do. But you could go into page layout, and it'll tell you the 3-column. So you know which one you're using. And I'm going to discard the checkout so I don't mess you up. And so we want the standard 3-column page. And if you have any question on whether it's the right one, if you'll right-click on it, click Properties, there it is. That's the name of it. So we want to copy this thing. So we're going to right-click, Copy, and then we're going to right-click, Paste. And we're going to create a copy of the V3 standard. And then we got to name it something else. So this is going to be specifically for education. Let's give it an _education name. So we've already, that's how easy it is to create a copy of that page layout. Now we're ready to modify it. But the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that it's named properly, 3-column education. So that way, when you see it in that drop-down list I showed a while ago, not checked out. Of course not. Okay. Check everything out. When you see it in that drop-down list, you don't want to get it confused with the other 3-column page layout. So you always want to go into the properties and give it its own unique name.
Okay.
Now we're ready to do some damage. Let's edit the file in advanced mode. what can go wrong? And SharePoint's thinking about it because SharePoint is a tool that likes to think about it. I think every time we click, it's get each HTTP packet is getting submitted to Governor Kitzhaber for personal approval. That's why it takes so long. Oh, that joke usually kills.
I was laughing, but I'm muted.
Laughing on the inside. Now, you remember where I was telling you that over here when you're inspecting the code, let me get down to where I can find it. That ID secondary is the wrapper that we use as a hook to allow us to go in and add. It gives us a CSS hook where we can go in and specifically style these ID secondary type pages. Mm-hmm. Well, since we're creating a custom one, this right here is the piece, this begin page ID placeholder. A lot of this will seem really confusing, but the only thing you have to remember is this placeholder here is going to be common in all our page layouts, and it's the part that writes that opening ID on the page. And div ID secondary, we want to add a class, and since this is text as far as SharePoint's concerned, we want to use the escaped entities, and we're going to call this one education. Click Save. Okay.
Is there a way
now we've created, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, is there a way you can copy and paste that section? I guess I can just look for, line 18. Okay.
Yeah, it should be line 18, 19. It'll always be, if you look for this control, content placeholder ID, begin page ID. And it should be, on all our page layouts, it should be right around that area. And you'll see the div in here. It's going to be some variation of the theme. Div ID secondary, div ID home, and there'll be classes associated. I think like the map page layout has one that is a class of maps, so we can touch it specifically with style. Okay. And it's fairly easy to do, but since it's a string, as far as SharePoint's concerned, you want to make sure that any quotation marks inside it are done with the escaped entity. So all that's very well and good, but we really don't have access to this page layout yet. So what we need to do is go and check in our page layout, which I would try to do here, but I'm just going to tell you right now, checking things in and out again through SharePoint Designer is never going to work. So if
I found that to be the case.
Yeah, it would be great if we had an integrated development environment that would work for you, but yell at Microsoft, those poor people. But here, you could still check in and out everything you need to check in and out through the managed content structure. Mm-hmm. And your page layouts are going to be under the master page gallery. If you'll click on that, and you'll see, here's the one I just created, the agency 3-column education standard. If I publish it, it checks it in and makes it available all at the same time. And give it a nice 3-column layout for education subsite. Now, I'm almost there. What I'll need to do, and I'm opening up a new window so I can do this in a third window, is I need to go into site settings, and I need to log in as me again because SharePoint likes to know who I am at all times. And I need to go under page layouts and site templates, and I need to tell it, hey, that page layout I just created, you're allowed to use. So here under, let me go through that again because I think I went through that kind of fast. Under site actions, site settings, I come to the site settings page. Under look and feel is the page layouts and site templates option. If I click that, this is where I tell SharePoint all the cool stuff it could use, like all the different all the different page layouts it could use, what's going to be the default page layout, what kind of sites I'm allowed to create when I create a new site. But we're mostly interested in the new page layout we've created, which is this middle column here. And you'll see we're very specific on what SharePoint, what we're telling V4 sites they can and can't use. We don't want to give them a bunch of access to a bunch of page layouts they can't use or may break their site. So we want to add in the 3-column education, and there it is.
Okay.
We click OK. Now we should be able to go in and change that 10-year plans page by editing it. We should have that page layout available to us if the magic works as described. There it is. Click OK. And save and close. And so far it looks like nothing has changed. Let's inspect that element. Let's make sure that everything is as we thought it was. There we go. You see now that if you look at I've given it an ID of secondary, a class of education, which means now I have a hook that I could use to style this page. And I have a filling. Where is main content on here? Bear with me. Portal bar. Have I saved my change? Did I spell everything correctly? Because right now that text should be showing up red. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Let's do a little trick. Although we don't want to turn everyone up in red. I know what's going on. My style has told it every H2 inside of the main content. This header is not inside the main content. This header is inside a div page header. So I want to specifically tell it, I was testing you guys to make sure you were paying attention. Good job.
Line 112.
Ta-da!
Woo!
So that's how you would change the headers on all these. So every page layout that you're going to, in education, that you're going to need a special color header for, you'll need to make a copy of it like that, check it in, publish it, add it to the list of page layouts you're allowed to have access to. And then in the site that you want to do that, you need to go in and make sure that those pages are using that page layout. And then you need to write styles that will target just that style, just that H2. And that's, of all the questions you had, that's the one that's the most lengthy to address. And that's probably the most SharePointy stuff you'll be doing at that point.
Okay.
Okay. Would you like me to go ahead and check this style sheet in so you'll have access to it even though it's bright red right now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I will do that at the end of this call then so you can see it as an example.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, did that help at all? Does that help you?
Yes.
Okay. You had other questions as well?
Let's see. Yeah, another thing would be changing a task box style so that I can edit the background color of the header for the task box and remove the bullets.
Well, let's see what's acting on the header. The background of the header, I'm assuming you mean this piece here, right?
The solid part, yeah.
And, well, if we inspect that, we'll see that there's an agency CSS line 128 there's a rule, main content, task box title, that's giving it that lovely 333 color. So let's go see if we can find that. What 128? Scroll. 127, 128, task box tile color. There's our color 333333, or background 333333. That's where you would change your background. But as you can see, it's pretty much we have one color controls them all. So again, you're going to have to go in and add a CSS hook of a class to where you could style each one of these individually. So what that's going to require you to do is like go in and edit the page. And I think somebody has the page checked out. Let me show my ribbon here so I can see.
Probably me.
I'm guessing, yeah. Let me make sure that's what's going on. Do you mind if I override your checkout?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm going to override your checkout then. I'm taking control. I'm a wild man. And let's edit the page. Now what I want to do is, again, I've identified, what was it, that H2. That was, I'll show it to you again here once I dig down. One more time, let's fill it.
Got some puppies.
All right. There we go. Found it. I was in the wrong spot. This H2, again, is the thing that we want to go in and add a second class onto. Right now it's got a class of title, but we can go in and add maybe a class of box 1, box 2, and box 3 to allow us to change the color. Or if you want to give it something even more descriptive, that would allow you to target just that box. Class names are, you can come up with whatever you need to. We could edit the HTML source of that page. And what I like to do, especially when SharePoint decides to move my box up on me and when I'm using Chrome, is I'll go in and I'll copy that. I'll open my favorite text editor. And wait for it to catch up with me here. Hello, favorite text editor. Where are you? There we are. And let's just close this window out. You guys don't need to see what I've been working on. It's just going to bore you to death. New file. And now I've got and I'm going to highlight it for HTML so I actually can see what I'm looking at. And if you start going through it, it looks like a bunch of gobbledygook, but we know we're looking for those H2 title 2s. And I'm just going to return these so you can see them clearly. Because as we all know, white space doesn't mean anything to SharePoint or to HTML. So it's when you've looked at the code as long as I have, you can start picking these things out easy. It's going to be a little frustrating for you the way SharePoint bunches stuff up to start with. But
Yeah.
still. But at this point now I can go in and give this one a title of box 1, or a class, I'm sorry, and also a class of box 2. Now I've got to keep the title class so that the styles we've targeted toward title keep the header that nice little, you know, certain font size, certain height, certain positioning. We don't want to lose that. So make sure you don't delete any classes that are already there, unless you really know what you're doing and you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Box 3 is the third one. And let me go back in and edit my HTML. There we go. I like to make sure that my bar is highlighted so I know that I'm in the right box. Edit HTML source, Control-A, Control-V. And if I've added the classes into the page, but I haven't given them any styles yet. So I can save and close. And I can go in now and start, let me inspect this one again. see, there's my class now. It's got the class of box 1. If I inspect this one, box 2, box 3. Now, each one of these now has a specific CSS class that I could use as a hook to go in and have all sorts of fun with. And so I'll just copy this section here, because this is what is applying the class, the style to the title. Let me give it just a little bit more. Since this is a title with also a class of box 1, I don't need to repeat all this other stuff, but I want to give it a background color of, and I'm even going to cheat this time, something that's nice about SharePoint, or when you're inspecting elements, is you can come in here with your web developer tools, and you can start picking colors that you might like. Let's go for a nice shade of green. And you could do a lot, whoops, bounced off of it.
Oh, wow.
You could do a lot of development ahead of time, just by
I need to get
doing
Chrome.
something like Chrome. The Chrome developer tools are very cool. If you have Internet Explorer 11, their developer tools are almost as nice. They're still a little behind on some things. You could do a lot with 11. 10, not so much, but 11 has some darn good developer tools as well. But Chrome, by far, is the one that I just find my favorite. And let me refresh this page. Now that I've added a style in to turn just that one green, and there you go. I've touched just that one. And I'll go ahead and publish this page so you won't have to do anything specific. And I'm going to try to do this without it. There it is. Bam. All right. Does that answer your question for that one?
Yes.
And when it comes to removing the bullets, it's basically the same thing. It's you inspect the elements. You'll see that this is the most specific kind of. We have a first child style. Let's actually inspect the second one. This is coming from the agency base, but I need a style that overrides it that's going to make those bullets disappear. And I can even test in here. If I click in, like I just did, it creates where I can add a new entry. I want to give these a list style type of none. And you'll notice all the bullets have now gone away. So I know that's what
so
rule
cool.
I have to add to make them go away. I can go in here to my styles. And again, that was going to be list style type none. Save. And refresh. And there they are.
Nice.
Ta-da! And it's just little simple things like the
those are very
tools
simple.
are really, really cool too for like helping you preview what you're going to do. Like if I decided I don't want, you can even do some cool things. Like if I decided for some silly reason I wanted my portal bar to be somewhere else on the page, or let's just say I wanted my logo to be somewhere else on the page, I can drag it. Let's see what it looks like when I put it in here on the page, or I can drag it down and just put it in the body of the page for if you're just crazy. Oh my God, I made it disappear. No, there it is. You can do all sorts of cool things and preview it before you actually build it, and it'll make you'll never go back to designing another way.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Any other questions?
Yes, this is a separate one. It's about the social media bubble.
This one?
I want to remove that because we're not going to be using that, and to have more room on the nav. So I'm wondering
If you,
I don't, I'm very reticent to just start deleting everything that says RSS or social media. So I want to make sure that I know exactly how to do that correctly.
Well, I think you're in luck in that this is controlled by a SharePoint list, so you can go in and declare what social media assets your agency is using. It's under site action, view all site content, and we've given it the imaginative name of social media assets. That's what happens when you let front-end developers. If you'll go in and edit these, and I'll just do Facebook, edit, you can tell it not to display. And if you'll tell all of these not to display, if none of them are set, that item won't show up.
Okay, that's easy.
And so if once you set all those to none, this little bubble will go away, and you'll see Facebook's already gone. But if there's nothing to show, it won't. The JavaScript won't attach this functionality. And if that doesn't work, you come to me and I'll yell at it because that's how it's supposed to work, and I'll fix that for you.
If yelling at it will work, right?
Oh, you know, it
Yeah.
doesn't really work, but sometimes it makes me feel so much better. Well, you've developed a little in SharePoint. Surely you've got the frustration for how slow it can be sometimes.
Yeah, it can do some really funny things, but not ha-ha
No,
funny.
but when you finally get something to work, don't you feel like I've done something?
Yeah, I created a leave calendar for P&D, and it seemed like
Ooh.
quite a task to get working, but I did get it working.
All right, any other questions? How are we doing?
I think we're good. I'm wondering about the last item is customizing tables a little bit more. Other than editing some things in the HTML, is there a way to get more features there? It sounds like it would be like creating my own default styles that would show up in that menu, or something like that.
Gets a little weird when it comes to things like tables. And actually, when it comes to styles out of the box, what pages I have under demo again. I think one of them was...
So the tables are pretty much out of the box.
It's out of the box, but again, anything that I have control over to edit, you have control over to edit. You have the same permissions as I have, and with the exception of having access to that agency-based CSS and our base JavaScript, you've got access to everything else.
Okay.
So you could go hog wild if you want to. And under your demos is a list of our demo out of the box. I think there was a request for being able to, like, a tool to help you change the color on a specific cell. Unfortunately, we can't be that refined with SharePoint tool styling elements.
Okay.
But you could always go in and edit the HTML and add a class that will allow you to add a color.
Okay. So that would be the way to
do it.
Okay.
And if you inspect it too, you can get in there and see what classes are being added and what styles to write to override things.
Okay.
And actually, I forgot. You know, SharePoint is, it throws a class on everything. So, like, if you wanted to go in and give even an odd cells or odd columns different colors or odd cells even, you could do that. But to do a specific one, it's probably going to require you to add in a class to say, if you wanted to change just this cell, you're going to have to find it and give it just a class for itself. So I'm sorry, we don't have another way around that.
Well, maybe this is something that would be easier to change globally. Say I have a table that has 3 columns, but I don't want the entire row to highlight when I hover, just that particular cell. Is that something that would be tricky to put in globally?
Would that be just that table cell? I mean,
it would be when you're hovering.
Let me ask my question smart and instead of like Bryce style. I apologize. Are you talking just that specific table, or do you want all your tables to behave like that?
Well, at this point, I'm not sure exactly how many tables we have. There may be just one table
okay.
that behaves that way, and so I guess I could just, customize that one table.
Well, if you're going to customize just one table, the first thing I would do is go in and add a class to where you could touch just that table. And that way you can go into your style sheet. And again, any style you put in agency CSS is the last style being rendered on the page. So it's the
Okay.
one that can override everything. So you could start addressing just that table at that point with your CSS. And
Okay.
if you go into your developer tools tool, you were talking about hover classes. I think like right now we have if you'll highlight the row of a table and you do the little toggle element state here, you could start doing pseudo states like if something is active, if something has been visited links, or
Oh,
something's been hovered over, and see how
Okay.
it'll go and render what that hover style
that's
is,
really cool.
and it'll start somewhere down here. It'll tell you what the hover style is supposed to be, which I am not seeing. Way to let me down. Oh, here it is, because it's applied to the table cell. Basically, this is where we're telling it everything gets a background color of FO, FO, FO when you hover over the entire rows. What you would do is write a rule in specifically to say, okay, no, my background color when I hover now is transparent. So the entire rows, all those TVs and THs are no longer getting highlighted. And then write a separate row based on this rule for just whatever class you've attached to this specific cell. And this is the color. Or actually, what I would do, I'd take that back. Let me Control Z my way. The other nice thing about web developer tools in Chrome, I can Control Z my way out of it. I could also go in and edit the rule. This is telling me when I hover over the T body, when I hover over the row and hover over the table cell. What happens if I change that to where I hover over the row and make it a table cell itself. And you'll see how it's changing color.
Yeah, just that one.
Yeah, just that one now.
Wow.
And if I change, I can do that for the TDs as well. And I could write a rule that basically negates this rule and overrides it with a second rule that will tell it no table cells instead of entire rows. Did that help?
Yes. Very cool.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Anything else?
Well, I think
Call me butter. I'm on a roll.
that's. I'm sure I do have more things.
Just corny as I'll get out.
Is there somebody I can call if I do have, just a few more minor questions along these lines, but nothing, substantial?
Yeah, I think we're doing this. We're doing these little seminars every Thursday. So when people have DIY questions,
Okay.
I think we're not doing ours tomorrow. I think we jumped it up today so we could help you out, seeing as you're the only DIY person we have going on right now. So there's always that option. But if you have CSS questions too, submit a question to the help desk. Sean will pass it on to me, and I'll be glad to guide you in the right direction. That's not a problem at all.
Okay. Thank you very much. Those were the most significant things that I've been trying to figure out how to do.
Yeah.
So should be.
And I think the one that's going to be the most tedious for you is changing these page layouts, because as you'll see, everything that ends with a .aspx with a V4 underscore prefix and it ends in .aspx, those are all the different page layouts that the V4 template uses. So each sub-site that you want to be different is going to have its own different version of those page layouts in case you ever need to use them.
Right.
So
right.
that gets,
Yeah,
and
that
then
makes
if
sense.
you want to do, and if you want to do it on several different sites, then how's that? 15 of them, 10 of them, 15. 15 times 5 is, you do that 45 times. 15 times 5 is what? It's not 45. Oh, my God. Kentucky education.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
60, 70,000 times, yes, 100 times, million times. So, but, it's just monkey work, but it's monkey work that's going to take a few minutes to do.
Yeah, it is.
And then you've also got the monkey work of going back in and changing your, after you've published those page layouts and made them available to SharePoint, of going in and changing pages you've already created in the site to point to those new page layouts instead.
Better to do that now than later.
Yes, yes. If you're going to do it, go now. Yeah.
Right, right.
And
Bryce, this
before I
is
forget,
Raylan.
too.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
When I have somebody who wants a new site internally, I just, through Manage Content and Structure, I just copy a very, very small mini site that or a sub-site that we have, and then rename it, and so they get all the things that were in that site. Crystal, if you give me a positive answer to this question, Crystal can weigh whether she wants to do it this way. But if she made all of these, made the color changes in the code in one site, and then copied that and renamed it, she would have all those new master pages, albeit they'd be in the wrong color, and she'd have to zip in and change red to blue or whatever. But would that be a faster way to going back to her color titles or the bars underneath the color where you change to green? Is that a faster way to do it, by just doing it one time and then copying that sub-site?
I wish I could tell you yes, but unfortunately no. It's the site collection, the root site collection is where all the master pages, you can't create, a site can't have its own page layout. So
Okay.
even if you've created a sub-site and it has those special colors, but you create a copy of that sub-site, it's still using the same page layouts as that other site. So unless you go in and either have a set of page layouts for it to use instead, or you create page layouts for that sub-site to use, it's not going to make copies of those page layouts for you. It's just going to assume you want to use the same ones that were already there. Did that make sense?
I think so. In other words, bottom line is not faster.
Not faster, no.
Okay.
It would be nice if it were.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. It's always worth the question. Thank you.
Yes, it does not hurt to ask. You're right.
And all of those master pages have to be in one single location too.
All the page layouts do, yes.
At the root level, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll see that there's just for the record, your site uses, when it comes to master pages, the agency V4 master, or V4 agency master is the master page of your site. But we've given you one agency V4 development master that we leave around right up until we launch. That if you want to monkey around with the master page, you can go into site settings, master page, and it's using development now, so you're okay. And tell it to use agency V4 development, and you can experiment with the master page and be reassured you're not going to break your actual master page.
Yeah, okay.
But whatever changes you make on development, I would copy it back up to master. Because we will be getting rid of this one before we go live. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. Any other questions?
I think that's it for now.
Okay. Well, I'm sure, we've probably overwhelmed you with a ton of information. So if you have questions, feel free to ask. We'll answer them for you, okay?
And how do we get the recording?
Oh, gosh. So, Sean, are you still on the line? That's our help desk guy. He's probably off helping with somebody. I'll ask Sean, and I'll have him.
He can email the answer.
Stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks a million, Bryce. Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
You're welcome. Glad I could help.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, guys.